Chapter 1. The Strength That Does Not Shout.
Let me tell you something, my friend. The loudest one in the room is almost never the strongest. That's not just common sense. It's strategy, it's survival, and it's wisdom from some of the greatest minds this world's ever known. Sun Tzu said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Think about that. Victory without combat, power without display, presence without announcement. In the West, we often mistake volume for leadership, charisma for competence, and dominance for strength. But in the East, in the Taoist tradition, and in the philosophy of Sun Tzu, true power is like underground water, quiet, steady, invisible until it reshapes the land. This idea ain't just about war. It's about life. It's about not needing to roar to be heard, not needing to win every argument to be in control. Let me give you an example. In any modern office, you'll find the peacock types, the talkers, the show-offs, the ones who are always on. They dominate meetings, throw around buzzwords, chase credit like it's gold. But often, it's the quiet one in the corner, taking notes, observing patterns, listening instead of speaking, who winds up in the corner office. Why? Because he understood something deeper. He didn't need to fight for attention. He let others exhaust themselves chasing the spotlight. And when the dust settled, when decisions had to be made, and the flashy ones had burned their bridges, guess who was left standing? The one who kept his power hidden. The one who knew when to speak and when to stay silent. That, my friend, is the art of strategic invisibility. See, there's a line in the Tao Te Ching that's always stayed with me. The soft and yielding overcome the hard and strong. What does that mean? It means the river carves the canyon not by force, but by persistence. The wind wears down the stone not with noise, but with presence. The wise man wins not by confronting every challenge head-on, but by sidestepping, rerouting, absorbing, adapting. Power that announces itself too early invites resistance, like a general who shows his full hand before the battle's begun, or a chess player who boasts his next move. That's ego talking, not strategy. Sun Tzu warned us, when capable, feign incapability. When active, appear inactive. The moment you reveal your strength, the world starts plotting against you. So why make yourself a target? In my younger years, I thought power was about being right, about standing tall in every argument, about making sure everyone knew what I could do. But over time, the Tao taught me otherwise. Real power is invisible until the moment it needs to become visible. And even then, it moves quietly, like smoke under a door. I once knew a man named Reggie. He was a janitor at a big corporate firm. Everyone overlooked him, never said much, just did his job. But over the years, managers came and went, executives rose and fell. Reggie stayed. And you know what? People started going to him for advice, not because he demanded it, but because he had seen everything. He knew who could be trusted. He knew where the bodies were buried, so to speak. And when the company faced a crisis, it was Reggie's quiet guidance that helped them through. Power, real power, worn like old leather, subtle, soft, but indestructible. So let me leave you with this, old wisdom for a noisy world. Never let the world trick you into thinking volume equals value. Let others shout. Let others wave flags. You focus on watching, learning, conserving your energy. Because when the moment comes for you to act, if you've kept your strength hidden, no one will be ready for you. And that's the point.
Chapter 2. The Dance of Shadow and Light. Let me tell you something most folks learn too late. The most effective control doesn't look like control at all. It's not barking orders or raising fists. No, real influence, lasting influence, is quiet, subtle, and often invisible to the very person being moved. Sun Tzu once staged an entire performance to teach this. It's said that he pretended to be sick, weak, frail, even close to death, just so the enemy would take the bait, march in too early, and fall right into his trap. That's not deception for deception's sake. That's understanding how to let your shadow do the dancing, while you remain still. Now, in today's world, you may not need to set a battlefield trap. But the same principles apply in boardrooms, family dinners, or even online. Let me show you 4 ancient tactics of what I call invisible dominance, each one drawn from the Tao and sharpened by experience. First, emotional masking. When someone insults you, mocks you, or tries to trigger your pride, what do they want? A reaction, a show. But what happens when you respond with a gentle smile? No anger, no bite. It throws them off. They don't know where the lines are anymore. They become uncomfortable, confused. And in that moment, you're in control. As Laozi said, mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. Second, soft language. Instead of saying, "I know the answer," say, I could be wrong, but... Instead of correcting someone directly, offer your thoughts as an invitation. Why? Because pride is a hungry beast. When you feed someone's pride, they become careless. Their confidence makes them easy to predict. And in that inflated moment, you've already won. You know their next move before they do. Third, silent observation. Now this one's a lost art. We live in an age of noise, tweets, posts, takes, updates. Everyone wants to be heard. But the one who watches quietly sees what others miss. It's like a ninja at a banquet, smiling, sipping tea, while memorizing every alliance, every insecurity, every weakness. You can learn more about people by what they don't say than what they do. Watch the eyes. Watch the pauses. The truth always leaks through the seams. And fourth, the tactic of false vulnerability. There's nothing more disarming than someone who claims to be unsure. "I'm not an expert. I'm probably wrong. Can you explain it to me?" And just like that, your opponent lays out their blueprint. In trying to correct you, they expose everything. As Sun Tzu taught, appear weak when you are strong. Let them underestimate you, and you won't need to overpower them. They'll hand you the victory without even knowing it. See, the dance of shadow and light is not about trickery for its own sake. It's about balance. It's about letting the world rush forward while you remain still, watching, waiting, understanding the terrain. In the Tao, this is called wu wei, non-forcing. Not because you lack strength, but because you've chosen not to waste it. Let me give you a real story. Years ago, I worked with a man named Harold. Seemed like he didn't know much. Always quiet in meetings, never jumped into debates. People dismissed him. But Harold took notes, listened to everyone, watched how egos clashed, how decisions were made. And one day, when the company hit a wall, it was Harold who calmly laid out the entire solution, knew exactly where the problems were. He had been preparing for years, while everyone else was performing. That's not luck, that's art, that's strategy. So next time you're tempted to prove your worth, ask yourself, is it more powerful to be heard or to listen? Because true influence does not need applause. It needs patience, precision, and presence. Remember what Sun Tzu said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." And sometimes the most powerful move is simply not moving at all.
Chapter 3. The Psychology of Being Underestimated. You ever notice something? People only swing at what they think can hit back. No one wastes energy throwing punches at the wind, and that right there is the secret. See, in war, in business, even in relationships, what we perceive as harmless is what we overlook. What we overlook is what can undo us. And the masters of strategy, the Sun Tzus, the Musashis, the old shadow generals of the world, they knew this like they knew their own breath. There's a rule in neuroscience that says the brain is always conserving energy. It filters out the familiar, the non-threatening, the ordinary. That is why you can walk through a crowded street and never notice the man who watches everything, who never speaks, who never interrupts. But he sees you. He hears everything. He studies without being studied. Sun Tzu put it this way: move in the shadows. Let your form be formless. Let your intentions be unknowable. Now let me share a tale, half history, half legend. A samurai was once challenged by a hot-headed rival known for his violent swordplay. On the day of the duel, the samurai arrived with a cheap wooden sword, something almost laughable. His opponent, insulted, smirked and rushed in, breaking the toy blade in a single strike. Confident, arrogant, he had shown his full style, his whole rhythm. But the samurai had studied it in that instant. He drew his real sword and ended the fight in one flawless cut. He used humility as camouflage. He used insult as reconnaissance. Now, what does this look like in modern life? I once had a student named Charles. Good man, brilliant mind, but in negotiations, always puffed up, always came in strong, tried to dominate the room. And time after time, he got outmaneuvered by people who smiled politely, asked questions, acted unsure. One day I told him, "Stop playing king. Try being the fool." He looked at me like I lost my mind, but he did it. Walked into a deal saying, "I'm new to this space. Maybe you can help me understand." And wouldn't you know, his rival let it all spill out. Their goals, their weaknesses, their timeline, everything. Because they didn't see him as a threat. They saw a lamb. But Charles was a wolf in patience's clothing. You see, that's the dance of being underestimated. It ain't just strategy, it's psychology. Ego blinds. Overconfidence leaks. People get sloppy when they think they've already won. Laozi wrote, "The highest virtue is not virtuous, and therefore is virtue." What he meant is that true power does not parade itself. It does not clamor. It does not roar. Like the tiger, it crouches, silent, in the grass. Now here's a practice for you. Try this sometime. In your next debate, conversation, or pitch, lead with a question, not a declaration. Say something like, "I'm not sure I have this all figured out, but here's what I've noticed." And you will learn more in that moment than in a year of arguing. Because when you're not a threat, people stop hiding. And when they stop hiding, they start telling you exactly how to win. But here's the catch. You must not let your ego rise while theirs swells. You stay grounded, stay quiet. The moment you need to be seen, you lose the edge. You become part of the noise. Remember, the tiger does not roar before it leaps. It blends with the grass. So blend. Disappear a little. Let them think you're harmless. And when the time is right, move like the strike they never saw coming.
Chapter 4. Battles Without Fighting. In the modern world, people still think winning means clashing, arguing louder, fighting harder, proving you're right. But as Sun Tzu reminded us long ago, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. No broken swords, no scorched earth, just quiet, deliberate outcomes. Now, I've lived long enough to know, Most fights aren't worth the bruises. The real winners are those who never enter the ring. They let time, ego, and gravity do the work. Let me show you what I mean. Take the office, for example. Imagine a colleague who's always undermining others, taking shortcuts, pointing fingers. Most folks would confront him, argue, try to set things straight. But you document, you observe. You say little, but you build a quiet archive of patterns. You let him believe he's winning, that no one notices. But on the day of reckoning, when layoffs come or trust is questioned, you hold the facts. And facts, presented calmly, end careers. That's a battle won without ever drawing a sword. Now, in relationships, it's tempting to retaliate when someone leaves you bitter or bruised. But what if you didn't? What if you chose silence over bitterness, grace over vengeance? That neutrality, that calm, drives some people mad. Why? Because they expect noise. They crave reaction. When they find none, their own mind turns against them. Sometimes the sharpest mirror is your lack of response. Even in families where control, tradition, and advice come enwrapped in love and guilt, the quiet path is still the strongest. Your aunt wants you to marry someone you don't love. Your cousin says your job isn't real work. You nod, you smile, and then you go live your life. You don't fight the current. You slip beneath it. Their illusion of control is the very thing that sets you free. Now let me tell you something nature always knew. The snake does not hiss before it strikes. It goes still. Stillness is not surrender. Stillness is loading the spring. While the world rushes and reacts, you conserve energy. You gather clarity. You strike when the moment ripens, not before. Lao Tzu said, "The soft overcomes the hard. The quiet conquers the loud." He wasn't speaking in metaphors. He was describing a law of the world. Watch a flood carry away boulders. Watch silence break a liar's confidence. Watch a calm man survive the rage of a storm. You see, there's a secret path between submission and aggression, and it's called strategy. Not the kind they teach in boardrooms, but the kind you learn through watching, listening, waiting. You don't fight your boss. You study the politics and make yourself indispensable. You don't scream at your ex. You let their new drama make the past look golden. You don't argue with your parents. You become so calm and successful, their lectures turn into praise. Remember, the battlefield is not always a place. Sometimes it's a conversation, a glance, an inbox, and your greatest move might be the one you never make. You win not because you overpowered, but because you didn't step onto their battlefield at all. Let others burn their energy in drama. Let them waste breath in shouting. You stay still. You stay silent. And when the moment comes, you let the snake strike, swift, clean, and unseen.
Chapter 5: The Invisible Throne. In this loud, bright, always-on world, it's easy to think that power belongs to the one who shouts the loudest, that influence comes from visibility, that respect is won by the number of followers or the sharpness of your tweets. But let me tell you a hard truth earned the long way around. Real power doesn't post. It listens. It watches. It waits. History proves it. Great empires did not fall to armies first, they fell to silence. Rome didn't collapse from barbarian swords, it rotted quietly from within. Corruption, complacency, whispers in the Senate. Power drained not with explosions, but with a leak in the pipe. Sun Tzu knew this when he wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." But I say this, The subtlest art of war is never letting them see you coming. Think of the eagle. The eagle does not scream before it strikes. It just falls from the sky. That's not just poetry. That's power. Clean, cold, invisible until it's too late. Now, I know the modern mind struggles with this. We're raised in a culture of announcements, promotions, selfies, arguments that happen in public for likes. People don't just want to be right, they want to be seen being right. But that's not strategy, that's theater. You want to change your life? Don't shout. Don't post your rage. Don't react. Write checklists, not manifestos. Build leverage, not noise. Let them underestimate you. Let them talk. Let them forget you're in the room, because by the time they look for you, you've already taken the throne. There is no thrill quite like the moment your enemies realize you were the quiet one they ignored. That while they were chasing applause, you were gathering information, planning steps, strengthening allies, preparing exits. They mistook your silence for softness, and you let them. That's not deception, that's design. Lao Tzu whispered it centuries ago. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. He wasn't telling you to be weak. He was telling you to be still. You see, the invisible throne is not given. It's taken, not with fury, but with patience. Let the loud ones spend their energy proving they matter. Let the insecure ones argue every point. Let the arrogant ones show their whole playbook. You smile. You nod. You disappear into the background until your move ends the game. Now here's how you start. Today, listen 3 times more than you speak, not to respond, but to understand. Tomorrow, let someone smarter believe they're right, feed their ego, learn their weakness. Next year, win a battle they never saw coming, because they never saw you as a threat. That's how you rule from the shadows. That's how you take the invisible throne. And when they finally look up from their noise and notice the silence, they'll realize too late, you've already won. Before you go, remember this. Victory favors not the loud, but the watchful. If something in this message struck a chord, don't let it fade into noise. Subscribe and ring the bell, not for me, but for the you that's ready to see what others overlook. Not every lesson will be loud. Some truths arrive in silence. So stay sharp, stay patient, and I'll see you in the shadows of the next video.